Good evening. This is the September 11th meeting of the Southampton Finance Committee. We are calling the meeting to order at 5:30. Everyone in the room is being recorded, both video and audio. Public comment, assuming you're here for the PCFs, correct?
I was advised by Janet that you guys always have questions, so somebody should show up.
And I'm sorry, can I just have your name?
Nilda Cohen.
Okay, thank you, Nilda.
So we will skip public comments. Approval of minutes. So we have two sets out there. We have the set from 8/28 and 8/21. I did 8/21. Heather did 8/28. Hers are much better.
Well, thank you. I didn't even read yours because I didn't attend the meeting, so I think that's the point.
There was one catch John had on the August 28th meeting minutes, and that was just the, at the end where we scheduled today's meeting, it said August 11th. It should have been September 11th.
Oops.
That's okay.
Good idea to change that.
So for the 8/21 minutes, any comments, questions? I tried to capture everything in as few words as possible.
I looked through, I didn't see anything.
Yeah, it was a short meeting.
Yeah, it
so we
was,
went through
yeah.
pretty quickly. So I'll make a motion to accept the 8/21 minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, 8/28 minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Minutes approved. 8/21 and 8/28. Department requests, we have none. And we're going to do a PRF that'll roll right into the PCFs. So we have a PRF in front of us from the Council on Aging to fill a vacant position. This is an administrative assistant. The PRF is for $15 per hour, 10 hours per week. So this position will be filling the interim assistant COA director position. So they had to use the interim assistant COA director title because there was no administrative assistant title. So they were kind of given a title and name and a pay scale appropriate to the duties. So this is actually creating or utilizing the administrative assistant position, and then there are PCFs that follow as well.
So there is not an interim assistant?
Correct.
And there will not be? That's the plan?
There will not be.
Oh, okay.
Andrew Stone resigned or was separated a few weeks ago.
He resigned.
So this will be for a replacement with the right title.
Right, and just for the record, there isn't an approved job description as yet for the administrative assistant.
Okay.
Even though it was presented to the board, our board, we had other things that were priorities, so we did not move on it, nor has personnel even seen it.
Okay.
So we're confident that it'll go through, at least with the title. We don't know about all the other specs on it.
So the PQB has only, you see Art signed this, so he just signed for the filling the position itself, not necessarily the job
For
description.
the emergency, because we need a body.
Okay. So the first item at hand is the COA PRF, allowing the department to post the position. Requested start date 9/6/17, pay scale $15 per hour, 10 hours per week. Well, this will be general fund, correct? Funded, or is it a mix?
No, it's partially funded by the state formula.
Okay. So it'll be general and grant funded?
With that position, you mean the interim?
The administrative assistant.
Primarily, yes.
Okay. Primarily
I-
general?
No, the state formula grant. We still have not received final word on the funding level. We think that it's going to be close to what we have been consistently for several years, but the state has not, the legislature has not changed their position on lower funding for ELEA.
Okay. Just going to circle grant and general fund. So like I said, this is for the posting of the position. This is not for the hiring of an individual. It's a replacement position.
Well, we have somebody starting tomorrow.
I know, I haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay.
Taking them in order.
Okay.
There's the form.
Oh, it's an administrative assistant.
The one we were questioning last week, whether it was funded or not, or last 2 weeks ago.
Well, there's going to be two, the way I understand it is there was not an admin in the past, there was an assistant to the COA director. They're going to do away with that position and only have an administrative assistant to the actual director.
So net neutral on funding, is that what we're hearing?
So what we're doing right now is looking at the document to hire the individual. We're not looking at the...
But we don't know where the money's coming from.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we do. It's coming from the grant and the general fund.
So it is covered, because I hear,
Yeah.
basically I hear kind of, but I don't hear yes.
So, I
It's
don't know the-
filling the same position of the Andrew
the-
Stone, the
of
former
the-
person.
Of the assistant director.
Right.
It's now, the position is being retitled and reclassified to administrative assistant.
There is enough funding to cover this position.
Yes, so the funds for this position, the cost of this position is $150 a week. The cost of the position that it's replacing was $185 per week.
It was there funds for that position it's replacing? Okay.
Because we paid them to begin with, right? So the person they're replacing,
Understand, but I don't know if a grant is not coming back up or anything like that, because if we're dealing with grants that are on an annual basis, we need to
Well, first,
understand.
I think we have a
Yeah.
rule that if we lose a grant, we lose the position. So you're not like
Okay.
overextending
funding
yourself.
goes,
If it's
it's
not
right.
there, it isn't
Okay,
there.
no, I just want to make sure, because I've seen,
In a case like that, then where the funding is mixed, would then those hours just be reduced to have enough
It's
to
up to the
cover?
department to figure out where to take that money from.
Oh, okay. They might
And they
swing
may
it
say,
around from
instead
somewhere
of
else.
you, you're going. or
Okay.
something, yeah.
okay,
Yep.
but they're bound to be
Yeah.
within
the budget, unless they
Okay.
come and get a special.
Again, I'm not looking to weigh into how other people are running their departments. At the end of the day, I feel our financial responsibility to the town is to make sure money's there.
I looked here to see if there were, but on this budget, it's just COA wages. It's not broken out
Okay.
as director, assistant director, or admin. So it's hard to
Yeah.
track it.
And does the grant show up there? I'm thinking it's not showing.
It's, yeah, it's in
further
the
Yeah.
grant page. It's
Okay,
under...
it is FRTA
Where
or?
she has the FRTA, the state formula grant.
And when do you find out if the grant was?
We usually know on mid-August.
Oh.
This is the first year that we've had. I usually sign off on it.
And you've just not heard of it, or?
We have, we were told that to try to project the budget 2 to 3% less than what we have been getting in prior years, which is not as significant. However, we do have a very tight budget because we hired a director at a higher level of hours, and that's why we kind of, adjusted the interim
Right.
or the administrative assistant to 10.
That works out.
So you're looking for the...
I'm looking for the grant, yeah.
One of the short pages.
Here it is. Okay. Well, this doesn't help. All it shows are expenses. There's no income
Right,
listed.
no.
There's no budget
Yeah. I mean,
listed for any of them, not just Council of Aging, but the ambulance fund, the library. There's just nothing projected there.
Right.
I contacted the program director and I told him, because this has happened before our interim director left, and I was on, because usually by late July, then we submitted for signature to the select board as early as possible, and we knew that they weren't meeting until mid-August. But even with that, we haven't heard anything further. We have a little wiggle room. If it really becomes less than what he told us, then we're going to have to adjust hours.
Right.
There's absolutely no other room. We can't move it to expenses. We've exhausted.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion for the PRF for the administrative assistant.
I'll move to approve the PR for the administrative assistant.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have the PCFs for the administrative assistant. So this is an emergency part-time and a temporary part-time. This is at the $15 per hour, 10 hours per week. The position started last week, since it's an emergency, I take it?
Well, we interviewed her last week,
Okay.
so she's coming in tomorrow.
Okay. All right. It has been signed off by the town accountant, verifying funds. Has been signed off by the chair of the board, or council. And it has been signed off by the PQB. Both forms, the emergency and the temporary.
M-U-T-Y.
That looks like a lot.
Oh, there.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, yeah.
Are there any questions, comments, concerns?
I make a motion, we sign off on those temporary emergency.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next.
Just a question?
Yes.
You've got an emergency here. It says for 52.5 weeks.
Yes.
Emergency is maximum 12 weeks, right?
Yeah, I can change that. Yeah.
I put the annual weeks in both, I think.
Yeah, so,
It's 2 weeks and 12, right?
yes. So, we should probably make a motion to rescind our last motion and update the weeks on here. So, these forms are only gonna be good for the 2 weeks and the 12 weeks, so we're gonna need a new one.
Or can she
Well-
change it, initial it?
Could you what?
Can she change the weeks in there and initial it?
Since I'm here, I can do that.
Sure, if you're,
Say-
you want to
Yeah,
do that.
that's fine, I have no
Yeah,
problem with
that way
that.
it'll be
When I'm
fine.
trying to hire somebody for longer periods, we have to see how it's all gonna go.
No, we just don't want this to kick back when the board sees it, all of a sudden says, oh,
Yeah, I know,
well.
I know.
There's some red pen
I
too.
know. You want me to use red?
Of course, it's gotta stand out.
When I copied it, it's not gonna be red.
So next we have a separation for the former interim director of the Council on Aging. Last day working 8/18/17 has been signed by the department head and the PQB. I'll pass this around, but there's not much to see. Just a resignation. I'll make a motion to accept the resignation.
One second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next we have part-time PCF for the new director. It's the new hourly rate of $20 per hour for 22.5 hours per week for 52.2 weeks per year. This is the one that we discussed 2 meetings ago. So I attended the PQB meeting, the funding was gone over, it was verified, it'll be grant funded and then general funded. It has been signed off by the PQB. I did not sign it at the meeting because it's, I just figured we'd sign here as a group to vote on it.
Okay.
Oh, you don't know, because we voted, so I signed the,
We voted that you could sign.
right, I signed the emergency for the COA director. I don't think I signed the part-time. That's what it was. So we voted that I could sign the emergency pending room, but I didn't sign the part-time because we didn't vote on the part-time. We only voted on the emergency. So this is the part-time for that position. It has been verified by Vicky, the funds, has been signed by the department head and the PQB. How's the new director working out?
She's still here. That's why we need to get some help in there.
I met her, and a couple of occasions I sat in on the interview, and I was really impressed with, I said, I didn't understand necessarily as some of the services that could be provided to the COA involve social work services, and I was impressed with that. And her background, and then they had luncheon, and she was very outgoing and receptive to everybody. Nice personality, very engaging.
Very good. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. We approve?
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Lastly, for the COA, we have a change in salary for the van driver. So the old hourly rate was $14.28 per hour for, how many hours a week did they work before?
Well, he was working full-time, so,
Okay.
you know, he can have 50 hours or,
Okay,
you know,
I got you.
yeah. We have a new driver coming in just for Fridays.
Okay.
Did you guys approve that? That should have come
We
through.
did, I believe
I
we did
remember.
that. Yes, we did.
Because I haven't seen it, and I was hoping he'd be able to start this Friday,
Okay.
because he went through all the certification and the requirements.
It may be with the select board for tomorrow night.
Okay.
So again, not to sound redundant, when I heard full-time and then 50 hours, it seemed like a little moving target on the number of hours. Are we set to be in budget? Is there a set number of hours?
That's a fully grant funded
Yeah.
position.
So regardless, if he works 100 hours,
He's
it's
employed
paid
by
for?
the Franklin.
So if he works,
Regional transit.
yeah, so if he works 100 hours, they pay the 100
That's his-
hours?
No. The grant is a certain dollar amount. However, the services of the van is every day. And some days he starts as early as 7 and he gets back at 5. Some days he gets started at 9, he gets back at 2, and then he quits because he has no other. So there's a varying schedule that's unpredictable. However, quarterly, we look at the monthly billing and we make a determination as to whether the grant amount is going to support the activity.
So that means you could cut them off mid-year because you
Oh,
spent...
yeah.
And it also means we could be upside down, because if you're looking at it quarterly and you start a quarter and you're already at the end of the grant, you could be a quarter deep. To me, it sounds a
But
little...
we can't pay him out of the general fund.
But do you understand what I'm saying? If they said they're looking at it quarterly, you start a quarter and you're already got 2 hours left, and then he works a whole quarter, we're upside down, where's the money?
Well, and
Then we lose the van.
and that's
We're
where,
just done with the van driver. Like realistically, so because he's not paid out out of the general, or the individual isn't
That's-
paid out of the general
The
fund?
seniors to lose
Exactly.
lose that.
It's gotta be controlled.
But it's
It's not an
managed by
option.
the department. I mean,
We base the budget based on the weekly hours, and so that varies. It's never exceeded. And they also get a report, and so if there's anything that they feel needs to be flagged, they will do it. It's a very, very well-managed grant.
Understand, so let me ask the question another way. Is this grant paid on a quarterly basis, annual basis?
Monthly.
Monthly, perfect. So again, it's audited to that, where every month okay, that makes sense. See, I was thinking it was an annual grant, and then we were going,
No, no.
okay.
Spending, yeah.
You got it. Okay, no, that's good. So I'm comfortable now that
No,
I
it's a
heard that.
legitimate question, but, if they get paid monthly, they know. what-
As long as we're submitting monthly,
You
not
can't
annual.
overspend your monthly allotment, right? Okay,
No,
so
it's
that,
projected, yeah. I mean, there's some wiggle room and there's justification. For instance, they've been very good about approving a Sunday event, going to a concert, so that's an
Yeah, but you're not getting too deep if it's on a monthly
Yeah.
basis. It's just the annual basis where you can get upside down quarterly, we say a little bit, but monthly,
Yep.
actually, you're
Yeah.
comfortable.
Michael Suppressi owns it. Yeah, yeah, a week off, and they have a big
So it
tournament
was
put on by Kelser.
old hourly rate,
It's next
$14.28.
And he's a huge
Various
boss.
hours to new hourly rate,
So, and my
$15.
husband does business with him,
Various
too.
hours.
Kelser?
what's all?
IT Kelser in
And
Hartford?
that's all in the budget?
I work for Hewlett
All
Packard.
right.
Oh,
I
okay.
used to run a company.
We got it
that was
approved
direct
through
hire talent.
FRTA. It was
Yeah,
not
Hewlett does a
done.
lot of,
Oh,
they do
good.
huge
Okay.
donations for this big
Independently.
tournament that's next week.
That's a good
I'll
point.
entertain a motion.
Move to approve the increase in salary to
We have an
$15
approval.
an
Is
hour.
there a second?
And-
Second.
And you did note that it's retroactive to 8/1.
It is retroactive to 8/17.
Because he had been waiting, and so I told him. In fact, I don't know why he didn't call me to tell me he didn't get it in this last check.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Noah.
Can I get a copy of them? I'll go down and make them and just, in case they... You guys are meeting tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Those are
so
all
just
yours.
thank you, I'll be back.
We're starting at 5, but that won't be on the agenda until probably 6:30.
Yeah, I don't think I need to be there. What do you think?
Well, we have executive session, and no, you won't need to be there since you were here and I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, on to the fire department. So we have a PCF in front of us for Matthew Mitchell, old hourly rate $15.61, new hourly rate $19.38. Employee has completed the paramedic program and attained medical control to work independently as a paramedic. This, coupled with his military Marine Corps background, make him an ideal candidate for Southampton Fire Department. Will not add to budget. Old title EMTB, new title paramedic with medical control. Has been signed off by town accountant, department head, and the PQB.
I'm not sure of the answer, but shouldn't he have his certificates attached to that to show you? Because he's now dispensing medicines, right?
Probably should. We don't always see the certificates for these, and I don't know if it's strictly like a PQB.
But
step.
we normally see him at the board.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, we look for him, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any certificates here. I mean, we kind of rely on the PQB for the personnel certification aspect.
Does that have to be signed up by the select after?
Yeah, comes to us after.
So, I mean, you guys will be looking for it, so
Yeah.
we'll make sure they're there.
Yeah.
But maybe going forward, we should ask,
Request more.
especially if it's with
Yeah,
a
that's the only way to
significant pay increase.
prove that, you know.
Yeah. I think it's $4, well, it sounds like $4 an hour increase is pretty stout little
Oh, yeah.
increase.
Anybody would take that?
And then, so how is it net neutral in the budget? And I suspect I know the answer, but I'd like to hear it.
So, the fire chief schedules his staff accordingly based on skill level of individuals.
So in theory, instead of 2 people being on, because one can administer, now there's 1 on.
So I don't want to get into like the number, but if you think about it, there's someone in charge, there's a middle, and there's an entry level. Once the entry level goes to the middle position, there's always entry-level employees to fill that. So that's how I've always looked at it, is you're constantly promoting, but you're also constantly bringing people in, and people are, attrition or resigning or whatever it is. So you're maintaining the same core skill level of individuals. The individuals just move up,
I
essentially.
mean, yeah, that's okay on the regular schedule, but sometimes when you have call, you don't know who's coming in. So you may get 2 paramedics, may get 1, so.
Right.
But he's got to adjust his budget accordingly.
No, that's fine. It's not like the highway department where you've got 20 guys that come in every day
Right.
and you start bumping $4 an hour across the board and it's a
Right.
material effect
Yeah.
opposed to this. Yeah, I get it. And that's what I suspected it was, but
And I mean, he maps it out, and I think he uses a rate, an hourly rate for the.
it's a mixture.
so.
Yeah, that's fine. I wouldn't know if something's missing or not on it. So. Make a motion, sign.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next one we have, so this one I'm a little confused with. So this is for EMT, paramedic, firefighters. This is for everyone. This is a change in salary, wage, or appointment. So this is the explanation. To keep standby pay more precisely reflective of hours covered as our day shift hours increase, no change in rate of pay, simply divided by hours instead of stipend for shift. So they got a shift stipend, which was $50. So now the new standby rate is $6.25 per hour of coverage worked standby.
Right. So
What
that-
is the
yeah.
shift duration?
It was
I
8
think
hours
it's-
originally.
Let me just see. We had this at the
Pretty close, I
PQB. We did.
But if it was 8 and it increased, let's say it increased to 10,
I
That's
said
where
I
I'm
say, but
curious.
as I said it, I'm thinking about it, because regular shift is at 5, ends at 5.
8 hours.
They come out 8 hours?
so this covers 8, but I would assume their shift is at least 8, right? They're
Yeah.
a normal shift. So if they're increasing the shift, it goes to 10?
Well, it goes as an hourly though, so they're just getting paid the same
Yeah,
amount
but
each hour they work.
Right.
So are we adding,
Are we adding
in the
hours?
24-hour day,
I don't see how you
did
can
we,
add another, no.
well, if there's a lapse in coverage,
There's
that's
got
why
to be
I'm
3
curious.
shifts. There's got to be 3 shifts.
There's
Or
not 3
There's not 3
I mean,
shifts,
there's
so.
on call, for sure.
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about, it's on call, right? On-call
Standby,
shift?
Yeah.
So there should be 3 on-call shifts, and then that would neutralize us on a 24-hour
Well,
segment.
the day is not an on-call, it's scheduled.
Here.
So there should be
People
2,
on
so
staff.
then there should be 2 shifts,
Right.
in essence.
Yeah.
And I think I know where you're going with that, Mike, as long as those
Yeah.
shifts happen to increase. It doesn't matter if you start dividing it by hours, it
Yeah,
works
that's-
out to the same.
That's just what I'm curious about, is if
Worst here.
just a date, I guess a 24-hour breakdown of what I would just think there has to be a cost increase. You are being recorded, video and audio. To keep standby pay more precisely reflective of hours covered as our day shift hours increase. No change in rate of pay, simply divided by hours instead of stipend for shift.
I didn't know that it gave them some flexibility, like someone would do 2 hours and the other person would do, someone else would do 6 hours.
I have a little information.
Okay.
So the way the shift used to run was from 8 to 5, I believe. It was a 9-hour shift. And now they are covering like 8 to 8. So in the past, they were doing the standby. I don't know when exactly he changed this, but the standby was $50.
It's your hard copy.
Oh, thank you.
Per like 6-hour shift, or 7, or I don't know how he did it. So, well, so it went from 5 to
yeah, maybe like 5 to 1 a.m. and then 1 a.m. to 8 a.m.
Something like that.
So if they did that whole time, then they got paid two $50
$100,
increments.
yeah.
So now that they have coverage at the station from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., it's a shorter period of time, and so he wanted to be able to break it up by hour so that it does more accurately reflect. So if someone only does 3 hours, they shouldn't get the full $50, and so this is trying to pay people more accurately by the hour.
Plus, it also allows him to give a shift for 3 hours. If Joe
Right.
can only make 3 hours and Mary can make here,
Right.
he can piecemeal
And it
it.
might be enticing for somebody to do it, to know,
Right.
well, I mean, if someone could do it for, say, 10 hours, but not the full time because their other shift starts at 5 a.m., and they were only going to get paid $50, then they might, you know what I mean?
Gives him more flexibility, like you
So
said,
this
the
is
day
not an
shift is
increase, it's
expanded.
just a
not-
different
that's
way
the
of
way it was
accounting for the
explained to
hours.
me, correct.
That's the way I understand.
That's the way I got it too, from, yeah. from-
But now we have to see if in practice that's how it works.
Right.
I mean, you know,
But the good news is the day shift expanded. So that's a positive. 12 hours.
Because I didn't sign the PCF at first, because I was like, $56.25 makes no sense to me whatsoever. Because I thought it was $6.25 on top of the 50, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But then when I talked to him, and then I talked to Art, because he explains to Art, but I asked both, and that's kind of how they wanted to pay it by the hour.
So how much is it an hour?
$6.25, yeah.
For standby.
Right.
So if they work 10 hours, they
So
get,
8 times 6 something comes out
it's
$50.
$50.
Yeah.
Okay. I got it. Is there any other questions or comments regarding this item?
No, I saw it already. Take a look.
Vicki, it's being recorded in case you didn't know.
I figured that, so thank you.
Yep.
We're not sure if it'll make it to being viewable.
I'm not quite sure where you can actually see them, so.
I went to
I
go
haven't been able
watch,
to find them, so.
I went to go watch one of ours and it didn't work, so.
And where do you find them?
On the webpage, right?
I don't know if it's a Vines thing or if it's one of those,
Yeah, click.
maybe Vimeo.
It's a Vimeo, because
I
if you
think-
click on Select Board, it brings you to a whole different webpage now from ECAP, but there's no other place. I didn't really look that hard to find
Yeah.
where other meetings are, so.
I think they show up just how, whenever they're posted, but, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Is there a second?
One second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next we have, last PCF, for the youth librarian, assistant to director. So there's a lot of information here. So this is a PCF that we reviewed originally in January of this year. It was for a pay increase for Joanna Douglas. So reasons for change, please see attached sheet for the reasons for the change. Also see attached sheet of surrounding towns for wages for youth librarians. I can't read that. Old hourly rate fixed $15.61, 26 hours per week. New hourly rate $18.50 for 28 hours per week. I'm going to pass around the information.
Retroactive to July 1st.
Correct. So it has been signed by the accountant to come from library wages, the department head, and the PQB. The PQB made a note. PQB recommends that Joanna Douglas be paid retroactive to July 1, 2017, since the original PCF was approved and scored March 23, 2017, regarding PQB, see PQB minutes closed. From the chair of the PQB. So I'm going to hand this around.
seemed that Barbara was confused that she even, I don't know, she just thought it was like automatic, and like, just because it's in your budget doesn't mean it's automatic, you still need to do a PCF.
But the PCF was already done and approved as long as it
But it
was
wasn't-
budget.
But it, yeah, but it wasn't finally approved because it
No,
couldn't be because the
finance.
budget wasn't set yet. So that's why the finance committee didn't approve it, so it never
That's
made
why
it
she
through the whole
waited from
process.
January till July to give her the increase.
Because on the PCF, it said would be effective July 1st.
But see,
We
on
had that
But
conversation.
we didn't have
She
the
told
budget.
me it was going up to 18. And then she came back and said, no, it's more than 18, and I'm like, I don't even have a PCF for this increase, and anyway.
So she would be here tonight, but she called me at home. She's sick, and she was leaving work early. But I was at the PQB meeting last week where this was discussed, and that's exactly what happened. In fact, the PCF really got held up by them inadvertently, somehow. They've had it since August 17th. So the reason initially they held it up because the position had not been rescored. It happened so long ago, they forgot they rescored it, but in fact they did when they checked their records. So everything is all, and it's in the budget, 1850, because that was what was planned last January.
I remember
and
all
put into the
that.
budget
Even with the additional hours too? Okay.
Yes. So everything is kind of playing catch-up and would be retroactive to July 1st.
I make a motion, we approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor? All right, that completes PCFs. With that, I'd like to make a motion, we move to new business for the other two guests here to discuss the auditor's report.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So what do you got for questions on the accountant?
I guess my question, did we ever see a response from the town to the audit report? I saw something that they drafted. I don't know that we ever signed it and sent it in.
Yeah, once I send it to them, they send it as a draft to say, this is kind of, make sure you check it over, and then you send me these hard copies. And I have one for the whole finance committee, not everyone gets one. And so I just gave that to Mike, but the draft isn't any different than what was in here.
So I know we had discussed the items individually, right?
Yeah.
So I have a question. It's the prior year issues, the ambulance receivables. And they list it as a significant deficiency, but haven't we made very good strides on that? And a lot of the funds are basically unrecoverable at a certain point? I thought that's
Well,
where we
We're
were.
actually looking for, which I started doing in July of this year, is I will take whatever the ambulance company sends to me. They break down their summary, and I finally got her to send me details.
Oh, did
She
you?
sends them to me automatically, so.
I think I asked her to.
Yeah, and then she didn't send July and August, so I'm like, can you send me July and August? But anyway, the summary has the commitments that they book, what calls went out, and then they have all the detail behind it. It will give you the, I'm gonna go get it because I'm not sure off the top of my head which ones, but it give you the payments, then it will give you the payments that they get, which, and then the payments that the town gets directly. So I can match those up to Donna's bank reconciliations and tie them to what we actually post in our ledger. So I can take those pieces and post those. And so I'm going to start booking the commitments which is what we do like with taxes and water. We actually book here, this is what we're gonna collect, post what we've collected so far, that will give you a receivables balance, and I'm just adjusting it at the end of the year, which is what we've done previously. So I started doing that in July. Well, I did it for May and June for this past year, but I'm gonna, do it all year for this next year, obviously. And, Donna has a special account for ambulance payments that we get in, so I can, reconcile that with the payments from the company that they send us, that they said that they got, that we should have for the town, so I can do all that.
But does the chief reconcile
The chief should be reconciling the
actually
calls.
calls they made
Yes.
versus what this company is billed for?
Well, he should be.
He should
I don't
be.
know.
I mean, I think that was one of the suggestions we made to him a while ago.
Well, that's one
about
of the
The
closing
auditor
the loop.
suggestions too, yeah.
So, he talks
he
to
created-
the chief to make sure that that's what's happening.
Well, I will, if for this, starting in July, he'll have to make sure before I book what I need to book. He also created a write-off policy with the help of other communities and with the help of the coastal billing. So he created a procedure of, how they go through and write off all the old receivables.
It still seems like, though, I looked at this past month that we just got, and it still seems like there's a lot that's old on there, and then there's some credits on there. I mean, there's some credits from 4 or 5 years ago that have never been refunded, that was brought up before. Like, these have been on this list as a credit,
Whose
Like
responsibility is it to credit?
$1,200 that was
Ours or-
overpaid. Huh?
Is it the billing
It's
company?
the
or
fire
us?
department's responsibility to put it on a warrant to refund it to the, and, I mean, one of them that's in town, I know, his husband died, and so I don't know if she paid it and the insurance company paid it, and that's how it resulted in an overpayment. But it's, like $1,200, and I'm sure she would appreciate the money back. And then, there's one back to '05 that who knows if the person's even, but either way, we need to get it off of the list, whether we write it off or whether we give it back if they're still alive and locatable. And, in the case where the guy died, it lists his name, but it's obviously wasn't him that paid the bill because he's
Probably going to the
deceased,
estate.
but- Right,
Yeah.
or his wife, or,
Yeah.
Well, it seems there should be some effort made to reach out to these people, and
Right.
then if that's unsuccessful, then they get written off.
Yeah.
So it does, I don't know,
Did you talk to the chief about that?
no.
Putting it on the warrant?
No, because Vicky's really been the one to, I've talked about it in the past when there were credits, but not for a few years, when that's,
Is that something you can do, Vicki, with the chief? Because we gotta put it on the warrant and get it out, especially that $1,200.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know if it's, I guess the one thing I don't know if we can know that, who paid what bill. I don't know if they're, I don't know if they would actually give us that information, coastal or not, so I can ask them that question.
Oh,
well, they should,
You know,
they're
should.
working for us,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
should give it
exactly.
to us.
yeah, ask them how they got a double payment. And if it's the
Yeah.
insurance and the person,
Right.
I don't know what the insurance policy says. Do we have to go to them first or not? But let's find out who paid it.
Right.
If you can follow up, that'd be great. We need to put it on the warrant, let's do it.
And then I still think, I think there's still a lot on there that are old, that,
And, it says here the chief established a write-off policy with the outside company. So is that taking care of
I
the old
have.
stuff?
Well, he did write off a lot of things from last year,
Yeah.
and the auditors were looking for that particular write-off policy.
Yeah.
So he had it like in his head, but he didn't put it on paper, so I made him put it on paper.
Good.
And so I have that, and I gave that to them, and so,
To see this first.
I don't know that if he won't do that, I have to look at it again. We don't do that at the end of the year. We don't do that, because if they're still trying to collect it, or he's trying to collect it on the other end, it would be a once-a-year thing at the end of the year, whatever the time frame and whatever he created would be something.
But do we have a written policy somewhere?
I do.
it seems like it should be at least a year old, so you don't want to write off in June anything for that fiscal year, because it's not, some of it could just be a month or two old. So
Yeah,
you
no,
don't
it's
want it.
not.
So that's why I'm wondering, why some of this older stuff wasn't taken care of if we already wrote off a bunch of stuff.
We
you
did
know?
write off a bunch of stuff, but I don't think he looked at the credits. That wasn't the conversation I had with him about writing off just the stuff that was from '05 that we were never going to collect. So those are the types of things that he wrote off before,
Would you
so.
mind sharing that policy with the board? I mean, you can email it if you want.
Email me or?
Because you're right, we want to write off the old accounts, not
Well-
this year, or maybe not even last year.
Yeah.
And honestly,
Start from way back
I was
when.
really frustrated with Coastal on a personal, and it just makes me wonder if someone wasn't as diligent about, like I had to call the ambulance, for Joe, and he has insurance, and they covered it 100%, but because it wasn't, they didn't bill Blue Cross. Or they did bill Blue Cross, but he's through a union, so the bill had to go to the union.
Gotcha.
And I called them 3 times.
The union or?
No, it's Coastal.
Oh, Coastal.
To tell them who to bill, because they kept sending us the bill. And I'm like, don't send us the bill, you need to bill, and I called them and told them who they needed to bill, I gave them the address, and they said, well, let's wait and see if Blue Cross sends it back again. So it took them almost 8 months to get paid, and they got paid the full amount, because they finally billed, but if I had just said, forget it, and never called, and just not paid it,
It'd have been on
it
your
would just
credit.
sit there and then it would get written off if I just didn't pay it.
Or go against your name.
They don't turn it over to credit. It would have been his name anyway, not mine, but they don't.
Once you marry somebody.
No, health thing.
I didn't change my name.
That's-
It's a lot harder to ding you on health-related
Yeah.
things on your credit.
Yeah, but some
Yeah.
people just throw you the
I
credit.
mean, that's an example of why it's so important on a monthly basis to reconcile everything.
Right, and to know whether these, I don't know. I mean, I guess we just have to take what we can get, but it seems like if they don't get it from the insurance company and people just don't pay it, then it's just never gonna, you're never
Then
gonna
we just
collect
write it off.
Right, we
And
just
that's-
write it off,
But why
exactly.
don't
That Coastal, they don't do any collecting, they're just sort of the...
All they do is send the bill.
They're
They'll
billing.
send 3 bills,
Billing and
Oh, okay.
collections.
they'll send 3 bills, and that's pretty much it. If you don't pay it,
Are they
then...
the only ones?
No, I mean, and there's other towns that use them, and other, I
Most of
think...
the
No, I
communities
mean,
use
they're the
Coastal.
other services, anyone besides Coastal, who does the same thing as
There's,
Coastal.
well, he did a survey because I asked that question, like, what about someone else? And most everyone in Western Mass uses Coastal.
I think they probably do a good job with the billing part of it, just not the collections part of it.
The important part.
The important, yeah, exactly, the important.
But if they don't go against the credit, I mean, if you happen to be a type person that knows how the system works, I get 3 letters, they go away, it's not going to go against my credit. But I don't know, if you get something that says, next time we're reporting it to a credit reporting bureau, that's when you go, oh, wait a minute.
Well,
I think there's laws against
There
that
is.
with
There
health-related
is.
It might be.
things.
You
I don't
can't ding
know.
someone's credit completely. I
I got a son that got threatened by that.
get threatened, but
Yeah,
actually,
threatened, but-
actually to show it up with
They can put it on
experience.
there, it'll show a hospital bill, you know? But if we don't have any teeth, it's money for the town to
But
pay
then,
for
who's going to do that, really? I mean, if they're not going to take the time to diligently collect it, are they going to take the time to mark someone's credit for not doing it? Like, who's going to take that over?
And
You
if
know
we're
what
not
I'm
even
saying?
taking the time to really reconcile
That's
what the calls are to what the bills are.
That's right.
That seems like a whole
We
other league.
might be making calls and there's no bills going out because not all the information was communicated accurately. So we're losing there. I mean.
I don't think we're losing, I don't think they're not billing. I guess I'd find out.
Well,
Well,
you might, but I guess you don't know unless you do a couple of months of a test run and make
Right, I
sure
mean,
that in
it
fact
really-
it's happening.
It's
or
not going to take long to check, just like
No.
Tanya said, like 10 or 15 minutes once a month to just go through and check to see.
it's a good
It's
idea.
not, it's, and that's kind of up to him to be sure he's doing it. It's going to bring
because
more
I
money.
can't look at that, no one else
Yeah.
can really look at that information.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess my general question is Coastal the right place to?
Well, like I said, most communities that use them are happy with them, and I'm not saying that they're not doing a good job maybe in the billing end of it. I guess because I have that interaction with them on a separate personal note, I was just frustrated, like, when I called the first time, they didn't even take down the information I was trying to give them. You know? They said, well, let's wait and see if it gets paid. And I knew it wasn't going to get paid.
It's our money they're waiting to see, you know? That's the
Yeah.
part.
But they probably have their procedures where you need to contact the insurance company for 30 days. You need to contact them now, and if they don't pay, then they go to the other direction, so. But I don't know.
So do you know what percentage of collections we're getting now? Billing versus collections? That'd be a big factor. We're supposed to record that information, I believe. We looked into this last year, right?
So, last year we billed out $322,623. I guess I need to understand, they
Going
make,
through April, right?
yeah, that's just happens to be what's in this folder. I have June, another folder, so I was working on it. So that was just through April. And then they have credits that they get from the insurance company, money that the town receives, and they have this adjustments column, which the adjustments are, they make adjustments for Medicare claims, and I'm not quite sure what that means.
Well, I think it's kind of like what's billed and what's
What's
allowable. like when you have your insurance.
So they
it's
write all
always-
that off.
It's always billed higher than what
Yeah.
the insurance
Yeah.
company allows.
And it's all,
Always.
it's all Medicare adjustments right here, so.
So in a quick search here, basically what they're saying in the healthcare industry is that most don't turn it to an expedient or that, they turn it to a debt collector, and the debt collector shows it on your credit and you get a ding there. So my question would be, are we turning this to a debt collector?
No.
So we're just writing it off, we're not even turning
No,
it?
that's the whole
Well,
conversation.
nothing's, well,
So-
up until now, we've just kind of been carrying it, and I'm sure that a lot of it, you know, people have passed away on some of these. It's going to take some time to really clean it up, but then once it gets cleaned up.
Because if you sell it to a debt collector, they pay you on the spot. So they're going to pay you 10 cents, 15 cents on the dollar, whatever it is, and you're out of it, and it's up to them to go get what they can. So maybe we should consider looking at taking our
Yeah,
bad debt.
especially sending that letter out saying it, because if we don't know what we billed, what we collected, even when you do take away the usual and customary and all that stuff out of there, we should have that on a spreadsheet, it should be big.
I have that, that's what they send me every month, they send one, a summary sheet from Postal.
So what kind of percentage do they do on any particular month? I mean, billing versus collected?
So, like for the month of April, they build up, and there's gonna be a lag, they're not gonna collect you the
Right.
same month.
It averages over a year, you know?
So, for the month of April this past year, they billed out $20,218. 13, 18, they, 18 and some change.
They collected?
18,
Yeah.
we got 18 of the 20.
But I don't know if the 18 belongs to the
Right.
20.
Yes,
or belongs to the
yes, it
before.
could have been several
It could have
months.
been for the month before, yeah.
So
You-
there's no way of telling.
Right.
It rolls, yeah.
So all I can do is check to see that we got the money that they said that we should have gotten.
So can we, from July going forward, have a chart that shows that? Because that'll average out after, you know, several months.
Shows how much you've collected of the
How
month
much
you billed.
Yeah,
I
a year to
think Jane's
date.
trying to get to, is it really a big problem? Are we talking 1%, 2%, 10%?
Yeah,
Well, it's gonna be almost
15%?
impossible to know if Donna gets $10,000, does it go to April, May, or June?
In a general, if your
For a
stance
year.
is,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
if we look at a year, are we collecting 95%, 98%? Is this a
Well,
moot
from-
discussion, or are we collecting 75% and 25% is floating out there and we should really be serious?
What is-
Well, according to
Equal.
this, from
Well, here,
July
let's
to April, they billed 322, collected
222,000.
yeah, 160,
Yeah, it's a problem.
and adjustments for
All right, so
154,000.
then that's not as bad with the adjustments,
You know.
right? But it depends on what those adjustments were,
Yeah.
because if those adjustments are right.
Pretty much, no, well, they
They're not a write-off in terms of we told them to write it off, it's the Medicare adjustments, because they'll send
They
that
got
full
payments in
detail.
from somewhere else, and that's what I'm assuming it
Right.
was.
So at the end of the year, we billed 362 and we collected 100 and,
Yeah, but you have your adjustments, so you
right, but we
collected
collected 100
270.
and some odd thousand bucks.
the adjustments are almost are almost 50% of the billing.
Yeah.
Which
Almost.
probably a lot of it is the insurance adjustment.
That's, yeah,
That's what it is, because if you
So
look at
if
it,
you
it's
add these
Medicare
three is what
adjustment.
we collected, right?
So this is what you look
This is
at.
what.
All right, I'm
right
gonna,
now.
we're probably
So we
gonna
have
have to.
$362,000,
gavel
we have
and
80
move on.
grand left in receivables, 80 grand.
How about if you give
We
us...
have 80 grand out of 362 left to collect.
Okay, how about if
for the
you
whole
give
year.
us something to the board so we can just
Yeah.
put something together?
Yeah.
That'll work better.
I mean, even Coastal may be able to give you some sort of historical perspective too of you've been our client for 5 years,
Yep.
here's our 5-year tally.
I mean, I can tell you what the receivables are at the end of each year, which is pretty much
That's fine.
80, 60, 70, I mean, it's less than 100 pretty much
Right.
most years.
Well, somewhere in that adjustments, there should be whatever was written off
Okay,
last
we're
year.
gonna have to move off the ambulance receivables. This has been a conversation since I've been here. We're definitely not gonna get to the
So
bottom of it
as a, some
tonight.
sort of a solution, we're going to work towards cleaning up what's on there now.
Yeah. I'd like to
We're
see
kicking it down the road.
the year end maybe. of last- Can you do a year end from last year? What we collected, what was billed, and the write-offs? Because those two, if the collected and write-offs, or if they're close to billed, as long as the write-offs are, the Medicare.
So at the end of FY17, we billed 362,000 bucks. What was left in receivables was 80 grand.
Okay.
So I don't know,
How old might some of that 80 grand is?
But hang
Yeah.
on, babe, what you don't have is
I guess I'd
what
have
was
to
written
look and
off
see
during the year.
Mike would like to move on.
We should move on, because the conversation gets muddy because 90-day billing, you could have lost a whole quarter of the year, right? This needs a longer conversation.
I would just like to understand what percentage of the write-off.
Right.
That's it, simple. However you get to that number, what's the percentage of write-off on
I'd
average?
like to know dollar-wise, what are we talking about? Because maybe it is important enough to get together and try to work with the chief on the whole reconciliation process going forward.
write-offs in terms of the adjustments they make for Medicare or the write-offs that he does?
The write-offs.
He
Write-offs,
did.
Yeah.
Because adjustments for Medicare, we're getting the money. To me, that's just shifting who's paying the bill. Write-offs are, we're eating it.
My concern is missed revenue, that's all I'm trying to get my.
And then is it worth
Do
going
we have
after?
maybe to come back with some information later at another
Yes.
meeting?
I mean, I can look into
work
it.
out
Or they
something.
can with the
Because
chief.
I heard it sounds like about 370,000 a year is what we bring in for revenue. So if it's 10%, that's $37,000 a year. I'd much rather pay someone.
I'll use my head if I break it.
Or even sell it, right, yeah, sell
Okay.
it.
So I would recommend that maybe the Vicky and the chief get together and maybe schedule a meeting, like the select board one night to kind of give the information, that way we can attend as needed. I think, without all the information in front of us, we can talk about this for a long time. So,
So we just need to know that percentage. and we're done.
What about other things in this report?
So a
We
couple,
haven't really seen this one.
I forwarded those.
We had this.
Yeah. I emailed you both of these.
I have this.
Yeah, you go, Paul.
Okay, then we do this.
So the only other thing I had from the auditor's report had to do with the finance team, and I know I've talked about this, the financial management policy and procedure manual, and it does couple with the formal risk assessment process. I know I've been saying I need to do this, but I actually need to do this, is schedule some sort of meeting with the finance team, I guess, to work on finalizing this, the financial management policy and procedure manual we referenced in the audit. I think we talked about that. Just sitting down with the document from, let's like a year ago, year and a half ago was the last time we saw it,
And reviewing it.
and reviewing it, and then having Bob there as well, because it's referenced the finance team get together and create a, risk assessment process. I don't think it's a bad idea to have the conversation. So I will try to schedule something like 3:30 one day, if that works with everyone, for like a finance team meeting.
Depends on the day, but yeah.
Yeah. Just so we can finalize that policy that we reference in here for the most part, right? We want to have some sort of formal approved document if we're going to reference it in responses, so.
And we need to know who will go from the finance committee because only 2 people can attend.
Yep. So I will go, I will set up the meeting, I will keep everyone in the loop for the date, and then
Let you know who can go.
first hand up gets to go for that meeting. It'll probably be 3:30, so it works for, collector, Bob, so I will work on that. And it may just be a sit-down meeting, here's our plan, these are the action items we need to follow up with. I mean, we won't actually finalize anything that day, but at least we can look at the document and see where we have to go with that.
So one other point, Donna, you love me for this one, the tax title balances, of course, that's on there again. I just wondered, do you have visibility where we're at right now? What's outstanding?
I just did the report today.
There's 203,000 in tax possessions and 32 in, oh, no.
No, tax
32 is tax possessions and 200.
At the end of June was right, but we're getting, one of the properties that I thought was going to close in June is finally now supposed to be closing on the 22nd. So that's about 80,000 that we're getting.
Nice.
But that's not, 40 of it's in tax title. 40 of it will come off the 203.
Okay.
The rest of it's interest and penalties that were added after it was turned
Which is
over.
a
You know what I
separate
mean? It's a
account.
separate interest calculation.
But
And
that still comes back to the town.
it still all will come back to the town, plus about $2,000, a little over $2,000 in attorney's fees, which will go back into the tax title revolving account on top of that.
Oh, good.
And
That's a
then-
lot better picture than they were.
Well, I mean, and she wrote off 74,000 bucks in FY17, 75, right? You collected 75 is what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's another property that, well, we're having an executive session about tomorrow, that's in front of land court now. We're just trying to, the land court judge sent it back and said, go talk to the town and see if you can work something out, because, yeah, but, so anyway, but that's
And that's a
a big
huge chunk.
one. That's another one that's, it's 100,000 total, but the tax,
Isn't it like
tax-
110 or something like that? Isn't it like 110?
yeah, it's probably, it's 100, 110.
But how much is that of the
Well,
tax?
you get 80 already, and then you get 110.
Yeah, I'd have to look at what the breakdown is.
So there's 190, so there's two properties that'll clear up 75% of...
See, because what happens is every year you turn over the tax, the interest and fees to the date of taking. So every year we do like a subsequent year. So then, they call it treasurer's interest, is the actual interest that it earns after it's been put into the tax title, because it goes to 16%. So that's why some of it comes off of that 203, which is the redemption.
Yeah.
And then some of it just goes into
Well,
interest and penalties.
Good. Sounds like you're making good progress.
So,
So that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Any other questions regarding the auditor's report?
I have a question. I know I had asked this before, and I don't remember what the answer is. When we get the auditor's report in, it shows everything on there that we're doing good, everything on there that needs corrections. Who is in charge of looking at these corrections, and who makes sure they get done?
Different people. And where it goes to, like Bob Marco is the town administrator, select board works on some. The answer is that police chief are working on some.
Yeah, it just doesn't show,
Town
like if I
accountant's
went
working on
to
some.
run the report.
And how do we know when this gets done?
Goes for the town accountant to get
So his total.
reply back. That's what she was
So
doing.
she needs
It's
to
a
do,
management letter.
so everything on here that needs corrections, she's in charge of making sure those corrections are completed by a certain time?
Coordinates that.
Yes.
Yeah, because we have to give an audit management letter back.
Still get the 80,
Okay,
yeah.
and
She
how,
coordinates that.
and what, do we have a time limit of when we need to have those corrections done?
The audit management, what's the time frame for when they tell us what's needed to the time we get back to them?
I mean,
I try to do it, you mean like when
With
they
the-
send
with
us
a
fiscal
response.
year?
oh, and the response usually.
I try to do it,
within a week or
I usually do it pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
The response is one thing, I think we should
Yeah,
ask
I'm
you,
not talking about a response, we're talking about the
issue.
actions being done.
Corrects the
For
issue.
things that need to be corrected, do we have a time of when we need to get those corrected?
For them?
Do the
No.
auditors
No,
give us?
no,
no.
So they're pretty much just telling us what should be fixed?
Correct.
Monitors.
They're always going to
Advisor.
find some kind
Right,
of
right, right,
deficiencies
right.
because they want you to have something to work on.
Right.
You know what
Yes.
I mean?
Right.
But they don't say you have to do it by this time.
No,
I mean,
okay.
we work on it and ask them questions on how to, I mean, this is the smallest management letter we've had.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
It is getting smaller.
Also, a lot of times when they come in, we're talking with them and getting ideas and say, should we do it different? So when they're there mid-year, we might be,
Yes.
I might change a procedure in my office then, it's mid-year, but they're not actually gonna note it in a audit report until a year later because it's the current fiscal year. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And ideally, you don't have it in reoccurring management letters, you know?
Right, well, that was my
the
curiosity.
policy thing is
one,
one,
yeah.
but,
Yeah.
Yeah, with the ambulance, and I think there's been conversations and steps made, it's just not, it hasn't
It's
made
not
it.
final,
Yeah,
it's
it's
still
not
kind of a work
final,
in process.
you know, and I think that's why it still keeps coming up, is you still have this unrecoverable amount, what do you do with it?
Or we did this piece, but we're still working on this piece and this piece. Like, when they went through and found the issues with the tax recap over the budget process, I had already corrected that by the time they did this
right,
report.
yeah.
But they had, because it was from last year, they kind of had to find it, and so, not had to find
So
it,
if
but-
we had somebody from the town, somebody who lives here in the town and said, okay, well, I looked at last year's auditor report, what did we do to fix that? Where can they go to see that those corrections were made?
They won't know until the next audit comes out.
Okay, so they would wait for the following year for the next report to come out?
Or they
to
could ask the
see-
town administrator,
I'll
the
ask.
administrator should
I'm
kind
just
of
curious myself, if
track of
anybody-
that kind of thing, you know?
Here's a for instance, so there's a note in here about, I think, IT-related
Yeah,
items. That's gonna be an item next year too.
Okay.
Because the town is not gonna make enough strides to fulfill the comment since they've received it.
But it will show what efforts were made to get to where we need to be.
Yeah, they'll talk about it and if we've made steps to rectify this
yeah,
issue.
they'll make
talk
that a
about
note,
it.
yeah.
Same thing with the meeting minutes, right? So that'll be, you know, you could say that'll be all cleaned up, but I don't actually know if they'll say, and the select board has been regularly posting meetings. They may not put it as a,
Yeah,
You've
they
been
comment
completed.
on everything in the next year that
Right.
they've identified the previous year.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't agree with what they say and say, I'm
Oh, I'm
really
sure,
not going
yeah.
to do it, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, years ago, for quite a few years, they wrote about the water, the whole thing with the water department and the collections.
And we
stuff,
kinda
you
took
know.
it baby steps
But
at
it
a
took
time.
like 5 years before it actually got changed to what it is now, and now it's not in there anymore. But, you know, it wasn't like we did
It's
something
some-
about
yeah,
it
there's some stuff that can
immediately.
be done right away and some that obviously takes time to.
Auditors need to stay employed too,
Yeah.
right? So there's always going to be things
Yeah,
in
there's
it.
always something there, yeah.
How about the comment about the departmental receipts and having like a policy and procedure?
I mean, we have a policy of departmental receipts where, you know, people turn the money into Donna. They're supposed to bring me up the second copy. What I need to do is get with the auditors to have them give me some suggestions as to what they, in essence, want me to do is audit people's turnovers compared to what I have, which means dragging all my, somehow keeping a spreadsheet of all the turnovers that people bring to me and comparing it to what other people have. Now, I think what they're thinking is, you know, for instance, the building inspector will have a log where they have all the logs of all their receipts that they have, then they have a total, then they put that total on the turnover and turn it over to Donna. Well, they don't do it that way. Every check is listed on their turnover. So they're not going to have a log of everything they've collected because every time they get 3 or 4 checks, it's listed individually on their turnover and then they turn it over. So I have to figure out I have to call them to see if they can give me some examples of things that how would they want me to write that down? Because we don't do it that way. We don't actually turn our money over that way.
I don't know if that's what they were looking for, though. I thought they just
They
wanted.
wanted me to audit the daily logs of the people, like go in and check to make sure that's what they actually turned over to you, is what they have in their files. But, you know, I don't, because everyone pretty much keeps it for the most
Well,
part on
everyone,
there.
yeah, and all the turnovers are supposed to be numbered, so they should be consecutively
ordered,
numbered,
yeah.
although that doesn't always happen, but that's the whole
People
idea.
forget, yeah.
But-
So those are
So if they kept a log, with the numbers, then they would know, they wouldn't misnumber them.
True.
Because
Yeah.
they had and I think that was one of the things that they wanted checked, is that they had like a cover sheet with a log.
With all the
just with
numbers
the
on it.
date, maybe the date, the turnover number, and the
Yep.
amount, or something like that. I mean, that's all that really needs to be on the log, is just those 3 things.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm gonna have to get with them again just to be sure I have that.
So in 6 months, we will schedule a sort of a comeback meeting, just to kind of review some of these, right? Then we could just at least talk about the steps made.
6 months.
Part of the financial,
Right.
part of the.
I know, but it sounds like
Yeah.
there's gonna be steps made between today and next month
Yeah.
for some of these. So at some point, we can circle back and follow up.
Yeah,
because-
even if it's not implemented, at least that we know that there's a plan in place to address it, and
Well, like the receipt policy, that's part of that whole financial policy and procedure thing with the
Correct.
investment policy that we were working on. And it's evolved over time. Like, I know there was one department that refused to take personal checks. And so I wrote that into what's supposed to be the revised version of the receipt policy that said.
can take personal
We can
checks.
take checks and cash because this person, there was no basis for them.
For not taking personal
Right.
checks. There was a
It was
reason not to
ridiculous.
take cash over there, but
But even then,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, so we will
So-
follow back on this. We're gonna have to,
Former.
I hate to do
Former,
this,
former.
but we're gonna have to keep
okay,
moving just because there's a meeting at 7.
yes.
And thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, I'll reach out regarding the finance team.
because we definitely want to review that because things might have changed and some of the stuff that we've done since then.
Yep.
So,
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next item, Jacob's report. So we don't have time to go through all of this stuff, but I have copies
Thank you.
of some of the documents. The meeting is the 18th?
You got enough copies?
Just enough.
That's been confirmed, Mike? That the 18th?
As of this moment, it's the 18th. It's a joint meeting with us, the PQB, and the select board, so if you could post it.
Yeah,
that'd
at
be
what
great.
time?
I don't know.
6 o'clock.
I know it's probably in Art's emails.
Let me
What was
see.
that, September 18th?
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't-
So I printed some of the documents that Art sent. I did not print all of them. It goes over the little PowerPoint presentation, the sample salaries, where we are in relation to other communities, where we are in relation to a proposed benchmark, minimum and maximum. I don't want to get into this tonight because to be honest, we don't really have the time, but some food for thought for the meeting we have the 18th.
And that'll be downstairs, correct?
I've got it listed as 5 o'clock, so check the website just to make sure.
Okay.
5 o'clock, I think they moved.
That's what I have, yeah.
All right. So, we're gonna move on, because I know we could get into this and review and discuss, but we don't really have time.
This is down there.
So I'm gonna make a motion, we go back to old business for an update. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
All right, old business, Finance Committee bylaw revision. So we met with Velda from the bylaw committee. We modified our proposed bylaw to basically modify the existing bylaw with language that allows us to participate on other committees and did not look at modifying the whole. That draft has been sent to Bob and Velda. So they have a draft for the meeting. I haven't got any comments back. I told Bob we would speak on it at the town meeting. If needed, if there was any verbiage required, just let me know. And I know Janine, the town clerk, is going to work with Bob on the time frame needed between town meeting and election to make sure we carry enough time whenever we get a proposed date. So I told him, those are just placeholders, the dates I have, he can modify them as needed for the article, so.
Now, are you saying, I know we're just trying to be expedient in that one section about voting and as liaisons and so forth, but the rest of the proposed bylaw changes, are we just dropping those, or are they just going to
No.
wait for the big revision when
So we will.
all of the bylaws are being...
So we will schedule a joint meeting with the bylaw committee to
Okay.
review and,
Okay.
I guess, dissect ours
Okay.
versus the others. You know, we'll be proactive in that situation and combat some of the, I think there's 2 paragraphs probably essentially that need to be looked at. A lot of it's similar to what it was before, so.
And they bring them up to the Board of Selectmen, as they go.
No, but I mean, we're just doing something just quick and dirty,
Yeah,
and then we have a fuller revision in the works.
for the future, yeah. And that'll be whenever all
Okay.
bylaws go before
Okay.
the meeting. That takes care of old business. Liaison reports. I think I covered
Okay.
mine. PQB?
You covered mine too, except for the fact there were a few other items that were discussed that had nothing to do with the Finance Committee. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to bother reporting on because some of it is confidential, so I really can't.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. No liaison. Any input from the school since your last meeting, elementary school?
No, it's been another meeting.
Okay. High school?
I talked with Greg today, because the last time they met, we had a meeting here, and they had some stuff listed on for budget, but he said it was pretty much just transfer information. They were just doing transfers. No minutes are done yet, but he said as soon as they're done, he'll send them over to me.
Okay. All right. So I have on here, item 10 is other. And one thing we need to do, and this is not anyone's fault, we can't use other. We need to have a category. So there's been kind of open meeting law questions and comments, not specifically to us, but just in general about the item other.
Okay.
So other could be real, it can cover anything,
How
right?
about miscellaneous?
That's better.
How about anything else that comes up?
Oh, you want-
That is, that's
It'd be
select board
something
business?
under-
I was
Anything
gonna
else?
say, I
Yeah.
could read what we use. if
Yeah,
that's-
so we have to probably model it a little bit after that, put it under new business. Because
Okay.
other kind of
Any
makes it
other
sound like we
items
could have
that
talked
come up?
about something last week, but we didn't post it, but now we want to talk about it. So if we do something similar to their language under new business, it's
Okay.
always at the bottom, it'll
Yep.
Okay.
cover things
Or
that.
anything else
And
that's
that's what,
come
we
up.
put any other necessary business that cannot await to the such
Yeah.
and such regular select board.
I'm going to
meeting.
copy that pretty much verbatim.
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
Okay.
But also, tomorrow, we have a joint meeting, I guess, with the Bylaws Review Advisory Committee. So if that's something you're interested in, you want to stop by.
Well, I did want to bring that up because I know that they asked for our input. Are we,
Yes.
do we want to discuss that as a group?
The
The
bylaw?
potential, the recommended changes to the general election bylaws? They were looking for our input.
General election.
New articles to be inserted. This is just all,
Oh, the stuff that came from the bylaw
yeah.
advisory group, that was quite extensive,
Oh, yeah, I have that in front of me.
yes.
I don't think we have time to review this, but we can put it on for our next meeting. Is that
Well, they're meeting to discuss it with the select board tomorrow.
Yeah, but
But that's
it's
a
not, they
board
can't,
meeting.
yeah, it's not to be voted on,
They bring
it's a
up
town
certain ones
vote,
we
so
Okay.
Oh, okay.
we'll have
We
time
don't want them
to.
all at once because it would just be overwhelming.
And then on top of that, that's nothing that gets approved, it goes to the town, right, John?
They just-
That goes to the town for vote.
Yes.
Well, I think as a committee, we should weigh in on.
Well, definitely.
All right, so can I put that for new
Yeah, new
business for
business,
next? Okay.
next meeting, not the 18th, but it'll be
Okay.
our next regularly scheduled. So that takes care of other, so I'll make sure.
Separate the back room part of the other.
And schedule next meeting.
So we're meeting on the 18th.
Correct.
That'll be-
Next, the following Monday would be our regular
Yeah, the
meeting.
18th is next Monday.
So it's a joint meeting you're talking
Right,
about.
that's a special meeting, it's not your regular meeting.
Yep.
So you-
I'd be good with a meeting the 25th at 5:30.
Okay.
So in that meeting,
Just an FYI, we got a Board of Selectmen has a special meeting, so Jim and I won't.
the 25th,
Yeah.
how special? Finance committee special or just?
I don't have the agenda yet, but we have a bunch of stuff, 6 to 8.
Okay.
We're meeting on the 25th. I already booked it for 7.
Okay.
We're gonna book it from 5:30
I
to
know, but
6:30.
We seem to always get this, we're in conflict with another meeting scheduled.
I'm doing my best. We will, the
Are
next
you meeting
meeting,
every Monday? Because we
Not every.
primarily have set the third Monday of every month as a protected day.
we're every other, so. And we will make a very
Yeah.
concerted effort to be out of here 10 minutes
Right.
before
I
7.
mean, this group is not big, but, you know, if it was the one that we had last time, they would have been bulging out.
Okay.
So
So
They're
they're
circling.
coming in.
next meeting, the 25th at 5:30.
Okay.
And with that, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn at 6:50.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
All right, so this meeting next week, September 18th, 5 o'clock is